The champagne was flowing freely. And Sophia Williams had already decided this was the worst party she had ever attended. She stood near the back of the crowded ballroom, nursing a glass of sparkling water and watching her younger brother Marcus beam with pride as professors and fellow graduates congratulated him. The venue was stunning, all crystal chandeliers and marble floors, but Sophia felt completely out of place among the wealthy parents and their accomplished children celebrating their master's degrees in business. She had driven 3 hours to be here, leaving her small apartment and her stack of research papers behind. As a professor's assistant at a state university 2 towns over, she made barely enough to cover rent, let alone afford a dress suitable for this kind of event. The simple navy dress she wore had been her go-to for every semi-formal occasion for the past 4 years, and she was acutely aware of how plain it looked compared to the designer gowns swirling around her. Marcus caught her eye from across the room and waved enthusiastically. She smiled back, genuinely happy for him. Their parents had passed away in a car accident when Sophia was 22 and Marcus was 17. She had dropped out of her doctoral program to raise him, working multiple jobs to put him through college. Seeing him graduate with his MBA from one of the most prestigious programs in the country made every sacrifice worth it. "You look like you would rather be anywhere else." The voice came from her right, deep and warm with a hint of amusement. Sophia turned to find a man standing beside her, tall and broad-shouldered, with dark hair and striking green eyes that seemed to assess everything in a single glance. He wore a perfectly tailored charcoal suit that probably cost more than her monthly salary, and he held a glass of whiskey with the casual confidence of someone who belonged in spaces like this. "Is it that obvious?" Sophia asked, surprising herself with her honesty. "Only to someone else who would rather be anywhere else," he replied, and there was something genuine in his smile that made her relax slightly. "Then what are you doing here?" she asked. "My little sister just graduated. I promised I would show up and be appropriately proud," he said. "I'm Adrian Vaughn, Sophia Williams. My brother Marcus just graduated too." She shook his extended hand, noticing how warm and firm his grip was. "The sacrifices we make for siblings," Adrian said, and they shared a knowing look that felt surprisingly intimate. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the party swirl around them. Sophia found herself hyper-aware of Adrian's presence beside her, the subtle scent of his cologne, the way he seemed to create a bubble of calm in the chaos. "So what do you do when you are not attending graduation parties you would rather skip?" Adrian asked. "I'm a professor's assistant at Riverside University. I work in the economics department, mostly research and helping with publications," Sophia explained. "It is not glamorous, but I love the work." "Economics." Adrian's interest seemed to sharpen. "What kind of research?" "Right now I am helping Professor Chen analyze the long-term economic impacts of small business loan programs in rural communities." "It is actually fascinating stuff, even if it sounds dry," Sophia said, her enthusiasm breaking through her earlier discomfort. Adrian listened intently as she explained the nuances of their research, asking thoughtful questions that showed he actually understood the complexity of what she was describing. Most people's eyes glazed over when she talked about her work, but Adrian seemed genuinely engaged. "That is impressive work," he said when she finished. "Have you thought about publishing independently, on a professor's assistant salary?" "The research funding barely covers the basics as it is," Sophia laughed, but there was an edge of frustration in her voice. "Someday, maybe. When I finally finish my doctorate." "You are working on a PhD?" Adrian asked. "I was. I had to put it on hold a few years ago for family reasons," Sophia said, glancing toward Marcus, "but I will get back to it eventually." Before Adrian could respond, a beautiful young woman in a stunning emerald dress approached them. She had the same dark hair and green eyes as Adrian, and Sophia immediately recognized the family resemblance. "There you are. I have been looking everywhere for you," the woman said to Adrian, then turned to Sophia with a warm smile. "Hi, I am Natalie, this Grump's little sister." "Sophia, and congratulations on your graduation," Sophia said. "Thank you. Are you hiding back here too?" Natalie asked with a laugh. "Something like that," Sophia admitted. "Well, you should come meet some of my friends. We are much more fun than standing in the corner with my workaholic brother," Natalie said, linking her arm through Sophia's with easy familiarity. Sophia glanced at Adrian, who gave her a slight shrug and an amused smile. She let Natalie pull her into the crowd, introduced to a whirlwind of recent graduates and their stories. Marcus joined them at some point, and Sophia relaxed into the evening, genuinely enjoying herself for the first time. But she found her eyes seeking out Adrian across the room more than once. He was usually talking to someone, clearly networking even at a family event, but occasionally their gazes would meet, and he would give her a small, private smile that made her heart do an unexpected flip. The party was winding down when Marcus found her gathering her purse. "That was great, right? I am so glad you came, Soph. I am so proud of you," Sophia said, pulling him into a tight hug. "Mom and Dad would be too." "I know. And I know what you gave up for me to be here," Marcus said quietly. "I am going to make it worth it, I promise." "You already have," Sophia assured him. She was heading toward the exit when Adrian appeared beside her again, as if materializing from the crowd. "Leaving already? I have a long drive home and I have to be at work early tomorrow," Sophia explained. "Where do you live?" Adrian asked. "Riverside. About 3 hours north," Sophia said. "That is a long drive this late. You should stay in town," Adrian suggested. "Hotels near here are not exactly in my budget," Sophia said with a rueful smile. Adrian looked like he wanted to say something, then seemed to think better of it. Instead, he pulled out his phone. "Can I get your number? I would like to continue our conversation about your research. I have some contacts in economic development funding that might be interested in your work." Sophia hesitated. Men like Adrian did not ask for her number because they were interested in research funding. But there was something genuine in his expression, and she found herself wanting to see him again, whatever the reason. "Sure," she said, rattling off her number as he typed it into his phone. "Drive safely," Adrian said, and the concern in his voice seemed real. "I will," Sophia promised. The drive home felt longer than usual. Sophia kept replaying her conversations with Adrian in her mind, trying to parse out what had actually happened. He had been charming and attentive, but he was probably like that with everyone. Men who wore suits that expensive did not fall for broke professors' assistants in 4-year-old navy dresses, but when she finally collapsed into bed at 2 in the morning, her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Just wanted to make sure you made it home safely. Adrian." Sophia smiled at her phone screen, typing back a quick confirmation before falling asleep with a lightness in her chest she had not felt in a very long time. The next morning came brutally early. Sophia dragged herself to campus, running on 4 hours of sleep and too much caffeine. Professor Chen was already in the office when she arrived, buried in a stack of data printouts. "Sophia, perfect timing. I need you to review these regression analyses. Something is not adding up," he said without preamble. Sophia dove into work, letting the familiar comfort of numbers and patterns push away her exhaustion. Hours passed in focused concentration until her phone buzzed with a text. "How is your day going? Adrian." She stared at the message for a long moment before responding. Drowning in statistical analyses, the glamorous life of academia. His response came quickly. Sounds like you need a break. Dinner? Sophia's heart jumped into her throat. Was he asking her on a date? That was impossible. Maybe it was a professional dinner. Maybe he really did want to discuss research funding. I live 3 hours away, remember? She typed back. Then lunch tomorrow, I can come to you. This was definitely not normal networking behavior. Sophia chewed her lip, weighing her options. Every practical bone in her body screamed that this was a bad idea. But the memory of Adrian's smile, the way he had actually listened when she talked about her work, made her type out a response before she could overthink it. There is a good cafe on Main Street. Riverside Cafe. Noon. Perfect. See you then. Sophia set down her phone, her mind spinning. Professor Chen looked up from his papers. Everything okay? You look flushed. Just warm in here, Sophia said quickly, turning back to her computer screen even though she could not focus on a single number. The rest of the day dragged by with agonizing slowness. Sophia went home to her tiny apartment, stared at her closet of decidedly unimpressive clothes, and wondered what she had gotten herself into. She called her best friend Rachel, who had been her roommate in grad school before Sophia had to leave the program. Wait, back up. This guy is coming 3 hours just to have lunch with you, Rachel said, her voice crackling through the phone. Apparently, Sophia said, and he is hot. Unfairly hot. Like cover of a magazine hot, Sophia admitted. Then what is the problem? Rachel asked. The problem is that men like him do not date women like me. He probably thinks I am a charity case. Or maybe he really is just interested in talking about economic research, which would somehow be even more depressing, Sophia said, flopping back on her bed. Or maybe he likes you, and you should stop overthinking and just enjoy it, Rachel suggested. You did not see him, Ratch. His watch probably cost more than my car. We are from completely different worlds, Sophia said. So, you are brilliant and beautiful and way too hard on yourself. Go to lunch, eat good food, talk to the hot guy. Stop catastrophizing, Rachel said firmly. Sophia laughed despite her anxiety. When did you become the voice of reason? Someone has to be, since you clearly are not going to be, Rachel teased. Seriously though, Soph, you have spent the last 5 years taking care of everyone else. Let someone take you to lunch. You deserve it. The next day, Sophia changed outfits 3 times before settling on dark jeans and a soft gray sweater that Rachel had bought her for Christmas. It was nothing fancy, but it fit well and made her feel like herself. She showed up at Riverside Cafe 15 minutes early, then felt ridiculous for seeming too eager, so she walked around the block twice before finally going inside at 5 minutes to noon. Adrian was already there, sitting at a corner table by the window. He had traded his formal suit for dark jeans and a black Henley that somehow made him look even more attractive. He stood when he saw her, and Sophia felt that flutter in her chest again. "Hi," she said, suddenly feeling shy. "Hi," Adrian replied, and his smile was warm and genuine. "I hope you have not been waiting long. I got here early." "I just arrived," Sophia lied, sliding into the seat across from him. They ordered, making small talk about the cafe and the town. Adrian seemed genuinely interested in Riverside, asking about the university and the local economy with the same focused attention he had given her at the party. "So you really did drive 3 hours just for lunch?" Sophia finally asked, unable to contain her curiosity. "I did," Adrian confirmed, meeting her eyes directly. "I wanted to see you again." The honesty in his statement left Sophia momentarily speechless. She had expected him to couch it in terms of business or networking, but he had just laid it out plainly. "Why?" she asked, then immediately felt stupid for questioning it. Adrian leaned back in his chair, considering his answer. You were the only person at that entire party who seemed real. Everyone else was performing, networking, trying to impress each other. You were just honest about not wanting to be there. And then when you talked about your work, your whole face lit up. I found that incredibly attractive. Sophia felt heat rise in her cheeks. I am not very good at networking events. Good. They are terrible anyway, Adrian said with a grin. Their food arrived, and the conversation flowed easily. Adrian asked about her research, and Sophia found herself explaining the intricacies of rural economic development with an enthusiasm she usually reserved for academic conferences. But instead of glazing over, Adrian engaged deeply, offering perspectives she had not considered. You have a really strong grasp of economic theory, Sophia observed. What do you do for work? Something flickered across Adrian's face, a moment of hesitation. I work in investment development. My firm focuses on small to mid-sized business growth. That must be interesting, Sophia said. Do you work with rural communities at all? Some. Mostly we focus on underutilized markets and sustainable growth models, Adrian explained, and Sophia noticed he seemed to be choosing his words carefully. They talked for 2 hours, long after their plates were cleared. Sophia learned that Adrian had started working right out of college, building his career from the ground up. He was close with his sister Natalie, who was planning to go into nonprofit work, despite their family's expectations that she would follow a more traditional corporate path. He loved to read, particularly history and economics, and he had a dry sense of humor that caught Sophia off guard and made her laugh. I should probably get back to work, Sophia finally said reluctantly, glancing at her phone. Professor Chen will wonder where I disappeared to. Can I see you again? Adrian asked as they stood to leave. You want to drive another 3 hours? Sophia asked, still not quite believing this was happening. I would drive 6 if that was what it took, Adrian said simply. Sophia felt her heart do that flipping thing again. How about this weekend? There is a farmer's market on Saturday mornings that is actually worth visiting. It is a date, Adrian said, and the way he said it left no ambiguity about what this was. That weekend marked the beginning of something Sophia had not expected. Adrian showed up on Saturday morning, and they wandered through the farmer's market, sampling local honey and fresh bread, talking about everything and nothing. He bought her flowers from a local vendor, a simple bouquet of wildflowers that made her happier than any expensive arrangement could have. They fell into a pattern over the next few weeks. Adrian would drive up on weekends, and they would explore Riverside together. He never complained about the drive or the small-town activities that were a far cry from whatever he was probably used to. They went to a local theater production, hiked the trails outside of town, and spent long evenings at Sophia's apartment talking over takeout food. Sophia found herself opening up to Adrian in ways she had not with anyone else. She told him about her parents' accident, the impossible decision to leave her doctoral program, the years of working multiple jobs and worrying about Marcus. Adrian listened with complete attention, his hand finding hers and squeezing gently when the memories became too heavy. Adrian shared pieces of his life too, though Sophia noticed he was sometimes vague about the details of his work. He talked about the pressure of family expectations, the isolation that came with success, the difficulty of knowing who genuinely cared about him versus who cared about what he could do for them. Is that why you did not tell me what you really do? Sophia asked one evening as they sat on her small balcony watching the sunset. Adrian looked at her sharply. What do you mean? You are not just some guy who works in investment development. You are important, are not you? Probably wealthy, Sophia said gently. You do not have to hide it from me, Adrian. I do not care about that. Adrian was quiet for a long moment. I did not want that to be the first thing you knew about me. People treat you differently when they know. I get that, Sophia said, but I would like to actually know you, all of you. Adrian took a deep breath. I am the CEO of Vaughn Capital Group. We are one of the largest private investment firms on the East Coast. I am not just wealthy, Sophia. I am worth several $100 million. Sophia absorbed this information, trying to reconcile it with the man who had spent the last month eating pizza on her second-hand couch and hiking local trails. Okay, Adrian repeated, clearly surprised by her calm reaction. What do you want me to say? It does not change who you are as a person. You are still the guy who drove 3 hours to have lunch with me. The guy who actually listens when I talk about regression analyses. The guy who bought me wildflowers at the farmer's market, Sophia said. The money is just a fact, not your entire identity. Adrian looked at her with something close to wonder. Most people do not see it that way. Then you have been spending time with the wrong people, Sophia said simply. Adrian pulled her close, kissing her with a tenderness that made her feel cherished in a way she had not experienced before. When they broke apart, he rested his forehead against hers. I am falling for you, he said quietly. I know it is fast, but I cannot help it. I am falling for you too, Sophia admitted, feeling terrified and exhilarated in equal measure. As their relationship deepened, the reality of their different worlds began to intrude in small ways. Adrian had to travel frequently for work, and while he called and texted constantly, Sophia missed his physical presence. He invited her to events in the city, but she had to decline more often than not because she could not afford to miss work, or did not have appropriate clothes for whatever gala or business dinner he was attending. The disparity became more obvious when Adrian suggested she come stay with him for a weekend. Sophia had assumed he had a nice apartment, maybe a condo in the city. She was not prepared for the penthouse that took up the entire top floor of a luxury building, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the skyline and furnishings that looked like they belonged in a museum. This is where you live? Sophia asked, standing in the entryway feeling completely out of place. It is just a space, Adrian said, watching her reaction carefully. You make your apartment feel more like home than this place has ever been. Sophia wandered through the penthouse, taking in the professional kitchen that was twice the size of her entire apartment, the master bathroom with a soaking tub that could fit 3 people, the walk-in closet that was organized with military precision. It was beautiful and intimidating in equal measure. How do you not get lost in here? She joked weakly. Adrian came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. Does this bother you, the money, the lifestyle? It does not bother me, Sophia said carefully, but it is a lot to process. This is so far outside my reality that I do not even know how to relate to it. Then ignore it, Adrian suggested. When I am with you, I do not think about any of this. I just think about you. They spent the weekend in the city, and Adrian showed her his world. They went to a Broadway show, dined at a restaurant that required reservations months in advance, and walked through art galleries where single paintings cost more than Sophia made in a year. Adrian navigated it all with easy confidence, but he seemed most relaxed when they were alone in his penthouse, cooking dinner together and talking about their weeks. On Sunday morning, Sophia woke up in Adrian's bed, sunlight streaming through the massive windows. Adrian was already awake, propped up on one elbow watching her with a soft expression. What? She asked, suddenly self-conscious. Just thinking about how perfect you look here, Adrian said. I do not fit here at all, Sophia said, gesturing around the luxury bedroom. You fit with me." "That is what matters," Adrian said, leaning down to kiss her. Sophia wanted to believe him, but doubt nagged at the edges of her mind. She loved Adrian, was falling deeper every day, but she could not shake the feeling that eventually their different worlds would pull them apart. The first real test came a few weeks later. Vaughn Capital was hosting a major fundraiser gala, and Adrian asked Sophia to be his date. It would be her first time attending one of his professional events, meeting his colleagues and the people from his world. "I do not have anything to wear to something like that," Sophia said, feeling anxious just thinking about it. "Then let me buy you a dress," Adrian offered. "No," Sophia said immediately. "I do not want you spending money on me like that. Sophia, it is just a dress." "I want you there with me," Adrian said, frustrated. "It is not just a dress. It is you trying to make me fit into your world by buying me things. I need to feel like I belong there as myself, not as some dressed-up version you created," Sophia tried to explain. They had their first real argument about it, both of them digging into their positions. Adrian could not understand why she would not let him help her, and Sophia could not make him see how accepting expensive gifts made her feel like a charity case rather than an equal partner. Finally, Rachel intervened, taking Sophia shopping and helping her find a dress that was elegant and beautiful while still being within Sophia's own budget, even if it stretched it to the breaking point. The dress was a deep burgundy that complemented her complexion, with simple lines that made her feel sophisticated rather than like she was playing dress-up. When Adrian picked her up the night of the gala, his expression made every penny worth it. "You look absolutely stunning," he said, and there was genuine awe in his voice. "You clean up pretty well yourself," Sophia replied, taking in his impeccable tuxedo. The gala was held at a historic hotel, all marble columns and glittering chandeliers. Sophia felt her anxiety spike as they entered the ballroom, surrounded by women in designer gowns and men in custom tuxedos discussing mergers and market trends. Adrian kept her close, his hand steady on the small of her back. He introduced her to colleagues and business partners, and Sophia noticed how he framed her work with pride, making it clear that she was accomplished in her own right. "So you are the woman who finally got Adrian to settle down," said a silver-haired man who Adrian introduced as Thomas, one of his senior partners. "What do you do, dear?" "I am a professor's assistant and researcher at Riverside University. I am working on economic impact studies of small business development in rural communities," Sophia explained. "How charming," Thomas said in a tone that made it clear he found it anything but impressive. "And when will you finish your PhD?" "I am not currently in a doctoral program," Sophia said, feeling defensive. "Oh, well, I suppose not everyone is cut out for that level of academic rigor," Thomas said dismissively before turning to Adrian. "We need to discuss the Henderson account." Sophia excused herself to the restroom, needing a moment away from the judgmental gazes and barely concealed condescension. She stood in front of the mirror, trying to regain her composure, when another woman entered. She was stunning, with perfectly highlighted blonde hair and a dress that probably cost more than Sophia's car. "You are with Adrian Vaughn, right?" the woman asked, touching up her already flawless lipstick. "Yes," Sophia confirmed cautiously. "I am Deanna." "I dated Adrian a few years ago," the woman said with a smile that did not reach her eyes. "Word of advice: men like Adrian do not end up with women like you. This is fun for him now, slumming it with a regular girl, but eventually he will want someone who actually fits in his world. Someone who can be a proper partner to a man of his status." "I think Adrian can decide what he wants," Sophia said, keeping her voice steady even as Diana's words hit every insecurity she had been trying to ignore. "Of course. I am just trying to save you some heartbreak. I have seen Adrian go through a lot of women. You seem nice, and I would hate for you to get hurt when he moves on to someone more appropriate," Diana said, then swept out of the restroom. Sophia stood there for a long moment, Diana's words echoing in her mind. She tried to push them away, but they burrowed deep, feeding the doubt that had been growing since she saw Adrian's penthouse. When she returned to the ballroom, Adrian immediately noticed something was wrong. "What happened?" "Nothing. Just tired," Sophia said, not wanting to cause a scene at his work event. But Adrian knew her too well. He made their excuses and guided her out to his car, not saying anything until they were alone in the privacy of his vehicle. "Tell me what happened," he demanded gently. Sophia told him about Diana, watching his jaw tighten as she recounted the conversation. "Diana is bitter and cruel. She is angry because I ended things with her when I realized she was only interested in my money and status." "Do not listen to anything she said," Adrian said firmly. "But what if she is right? Not about you moving on, but about me not fitting in your world?" Sophia asked, voicing the fear she had been carrying. "Everyone in there looked at me like I was some kind of curiosity. Your partner basically called me unambitious to my face. How is this going to work long-term if I am always going to be the outsider who does not measure up?" Adrian pulled the car over, turning to face her fully. "You are not the one who does not measure up, Sophia. Those people spend so much time obsessed with status and appearances that they have forgotten what actually matters. You are brilliant and compassionate and real. You work harder than anyone I know. You sacrificed your own dreams to take care of your brother. That is worth more than all the designer dresses and impressive credentials in that entire ballroom. But it is your world, Adrian. These are your colleagues, your friends. I do not want to be the reason you feel like you have to defend your choices," Sophia said. "Being with you is not a choice I need to defend. It is the best decision I have ever made," Adrian said intensely. "I know this is hard. I know the money and the lifestyle and all of it is a lot to navigate, but I love you, Sophia. I am completely in love with you. And I do not care what anyone else thinks about it." Sophia felt tears prick her eyes. "I love you too. I am just scared." "Of what?" Adrian asked, taking her hand. "That eventually you will wake up and realize you could be with someone who makes your life easier. Someone who knows how to navigate your world and does not need you to constantly be defending them," Sophia admitted. "I do not want easy. I want you. Exactly as you are," Adrian said, pulling her close and kissing her until she believed him. They drove back to his penthouse, and that night Adrian showed her exactly how much he loved her, with a tenderness and passion that erased the doubts Diana's words had planted. Over the following months, Sophia and Adrian navigated the challenges of their relationship with growing confidence. Sophia learned to handle the occasional snide comment or judgmental look, developing a thicker skin and a fiercer certainty in what she and Adrian had together. Adrian became more vocal about defending her, shutting down anyone who tried to diminish her or their relationship. The turning point came when Professor Chen announced his retirement. He was moving to pursue consulting work, and the university was looking for someone to take over his research projects. The position would come with a significant raise and the potential to restart her doctoral work part-time, with the university covering tuition. "You have to apply," Rachel insisted when Sophia told her about it. "I do not have the credentials they are looking for. They want someone with at least a master's degree in publications," Sophia said, reading through the job description. "You have been doing the actual work for years, while Chen took the credit. Everyone in that department knows you are the brains behind those projects," Rachel argued. Sophia applied, but without much hope. She was shocked when she was called in for an interview, and even more shocked when she was offered the position. The department chair explained that Professor Chen had recommended her strongly, and her work spoke for itself. She called Adrian immediately, unable to contain her excitement. "I got it. They offered me the position." "That is amazing. I am so proud of you," Adrian said, and she could hear the genuine joy in his voice. "This calls for a celebration. I am coming up this weekend, and we are going somewhere special." That weekend, Adrian took her to an exclusive restaurant 2 towns over, the kind of place where the menu did not list prices and the wine list was thicker than most novels. Sophia had learned to let Adrian treat her occasionally, understanding that it brought him joy to celebrate her successes. Over an incredible meal, they talked about what this new position would mean. Sophia would have more autonomy, better pay, and the chance to finally finish her doctorate. For the first time in years, she felt like her life was moving forward rather than just surviving. "I have something I want to discuss with you," Adrian said as dessert arrived, his tone turning serious. Sophia felt her heart rate pick up. "Okay, this commute is killing me. 3 hours each way means I lose an entire day every time I want to see you, and I want to see you all the time," Adrian said, reaching across the table to take her hand. "Move in with me." Sophia stared at him, trying to process what he was asking. "Move to the city." "I know it would be a commute for you to campus, but it is manageable. An hour or so. People do it all the time," Adrian said quickly. "Or if you do not want to live in the penthouse, we could get a place halfway between. Whatever makes you comfortable." "Adrian, I just got this job. I cannot uproot my entire life right now," Sophia said, feeling torn. "Why not? What is really keeping you in Riverside besides your lease?" Adrian challenged. "My job, my life, my independence," Sophia listed. "I finally feel like I am building something for myself. Moving in with you, leaving everything I have worked for, that feels like giving up my own identity." "It does not have to be. You would still have your job, your research. You would just come home to me at the end of the day," Adrian argued. "In your penthouse, in your world, financially dependent on you," Sophia said, the old fears rising up again. "That is not fair. I have never asked you to be dependent on me. I am just asking you to let our relationship progress naturally," Adrian said, frustrated. "Naturally? Nothing about this relationship is natural. You are a multimillionaire CEO and I am a researcher who just got her first real professional position. The power dynamic is not equal, and moving into your space, your home, that would only make it worse," Sophia said. They argued quietly, mindful of the other diners, but intensely. Adrian did not understand why Sophia could not see this as a natural next step, and Sophia could not make him understand how much her independence meant to her, especially after years of sacrificing everything for others. They left the restaurant with the issue unresolved, driving back to Riverside in tense silence. When they arrived at Sophia's apartment, Adrian walked her to her door. "I am sorry," he said quietly. "I pushed too hard. I just miss you so much during the week that I am not thinking clearly." "I miss you too," Sophia admitted. "But I need this, Adrian. I need to prove to myself that I can build a career and a life on my own terms, not as your girlfriend or as Marcus's sister, but as myself." "I understand," Adrian said, though she could see the disappointment in his eyes. "But for the record, I do not think you have anything left to prove. You are already the most impressive person I know." He kissed her goodnight and left, and Sophia stood in her small apartment feeling miserable despite her professional triumph. The next few weeks were strained. They still talked every day and saw each other on weekends, but there was a tension underlying everything. Sophia threw herself into her new position, determined to prove she deserved it. She was developing her own research project, building relationships with community organizations, and starting to map out her dissertation proposal. Marcus called one evening, checking in like he did regularly since getting a good job at a consulting firm in another state. "You sound stressed." "What is going on?" Sophia told him about the fight with Adrian, her conflicted feelings about the move. "Can I be honest?" Marcus asked. "You are being stubborn." "Excuse me," Sophia said, surprised. "You spent 5 years sacrificing everything for me. You gave up your dreams, your education, your whole life to make sure I could succeed. And I will never be able to repay you for that. But Soph, you are still in that mindset. You are so used to having to do everything alone, to proving you do not need anyone, that you cannot accept help even when it is offered freely," Marcus said gently. "That is not fair," Sophia protested. "Is not it? This guy clearly adores you. He drives 6 hours round trip every weekend just to see you. He is proud of your work and supports your career. And when he asks you to take the next step in your relationship, you frame it as giving up your independence rather than building a life together," Marcus pointed out. "Maybe it is time to let someone take care of you for a change. That does not make you weak or dependent. It just makes you human." Sophia sat with Marcus's words long after they hung up. Was she being stubborn? Was she so used to fighting for everything alone that she could not recognize partnership when it was offered? She called Rachel, needing another perspective. Rachel listened to the whole story, then sighed. "Honey, I love you, but Marcus is right. You are self-sabotaging," Rachel said bluntly. "This amazing guy loves you and wants to build a life with you, and you are treating it like some kind of trap. I get that the money stuff is weird, but at some point, you need to decide if you are going to trust this relationship, or if you are going to let your insecurities destroy it." That weekend, when Adrian came up, Sophia had made a decision. She met him at the door and pulled him into a deep kiss before he could say anything. "I have been thinking about what you said," Sophia began when they finally broke apart, "and I am not ready to move yet. But not because I do not love you or because I do not see a future with us. I need to establish myself in this position first, prove to myself that I can do this. 6 months, maybe a year. Can you give me that time?" Adrian studied her face carefully. "Are you asking for time because you need it, or because you are still scared this will not work?" "Both, maybe," Sophia admitted. "But mostly because I need to do this for me. Can you understand that?" "I can," Adrian said slowly. "I do not like it, but I can understand it. And I will wait however long you need because you are worth it." Relief flooded through Sophia. "Thank you. But I have a condition," Adrian added with a slight smile. "What?" Sophia asked warily. "Let me help fund your research, not as your boyfriend but as an investor. Vaughn Capital has a division that invests in community development research. What you are doing is exactly the kind of work we should be supporting. Let me set up a meeting with that team," Adrian proposed. Sophia wanted to refuse automatically, but she forced herself to actually consider it. Was this accepting help or compromising her integrity? Could she separate Adrian the boyfriend from Adrian the CEO? "On one condition," Sophia countered. "Your team evaluates my work on its merits, not because I am dating you. If they do not think it is worth funding, I want honest feedback, not charity." "Deal," Adrian agreed immediately. "Though I have to warn you, that team is ruthless about vetting proposals. You will probably wish I had gone easier on you." Sophia laughed, feeling the tension that had been building between them finally ease. True to his word, Adrian arranged a meeting with Vaughn Capital's Community Development Investment Team. Sophia prepared a comprehensive proposal, detailing her research goals, methodology, and projected impact. She was terrified and excited in equal measure. The The meeting was intense. The team drilled her with questions, poked holes in her assumptions, and challenged her projections. Adrian sat in the corner, mostly silent, letting them do their jobs. By the end of 2 hours, Sophia was exhausted but exhilarated. She had defended her work well, and she knew it. 2 weeks later, she got the call. Vaughn Capital would fund her research with a 3-year grant that would cover materials, travel, data collection, and even a graduate assistant. It was more than she had dared to hope for. They loved it, Adrian told her that night, unable to contain his pride. The team said it was one of the strongest proposals they had seen this year. This was all you, Sophia. Sophia felt something shift inside her. She had proven she could succeed on her own merits, and accepting help did not diminish that. It just meant she did not have to do everything alone anymore. The months that followed were some of the happiest of Sophia's life. Her research took off, and she started gaining recognition in her field. She presented at conferences, published her first sole-authored paper, and officially re-enrolled in the doctoral program. Marcus visited frequently, proud of his sister's accomplishments. Adrian remained her biggest supporter, celebrating every success and providing comfort during the inevitable setbacks. Their relationship deepened into something solid and enduring. They learned each other's rhythms, how to fight productively, and resolve conflicts with honesty. Sophia became more comfortable in Adrian's world, developing friendships with Natalie and some of Adrian's more genuine colleagues. Adrian embraced Sophia's world too, attending her presentations and becoming friends with her colleagues. One evening, about a year after they had started dating, Sophia looked around her small apartment. It had been her sanctuary for years, the space where she had rebuilt her life after everything fell apart. But lately, it felt less like home and more like a way station. Home was wherever Adrian was. She called him that night. "I have been thinking about your offer to move in together." "And?" Adrian asked carefully, and she could hear the hope in his voice. "I think I am ready, but not the penthouse. Let's find a place that is ours together." "Something between my world and yours," Sophia proposed. "I would love that," Adrian said, and she could hear his smile through the phone. "Start looking at places, whatever you want." They spent the next few months house hunting, which turned out to be an adventure in navigating their different perspectives. Adrian kept suggesting places that Sophia found ridiculously extravagant, while Sophia's choices seemed charmingly modest to Adrian. Finally, they found a compromise, a beautiful brownstone in a neighborhood halfway between the city and Riverside. It had character and history, with enough space for both of them to have home offices, but it felt warm and livable rather than like a showpiece. Moving in together was an adjustment. They had to learn how to share space, navigate each other's habits and quirks. Sophia discovered that Adrian was obsessively organized and could not function without his morning routine. Adrian learned that Sophia became completely absorbed in her work and would forget to eat unless reminded. But they made it work, building a life together that felt balanced and right. 6 months after moving in, Adrian took Sophia back to Riverside for dinner at the cafe where they had their first date. It was a Friday evening, and the place was busy with the usual weekend crowd. They sat at the same corner table, and Adrian seemed nervous in a way Sophia had rarely seen. "You okay?" she asked, reaching across to take his hand. "More than okay," Adrian said, squeezing her fingers. "I have been thinking about that first lunch we had here. How nervous I was that you would not show up. How sure I was even then that you were someone special. I almost did not come. Rachel had to talk me into it," Sophia admitted with a smile. "Remind me to thank her," Adrian said. "Sophia, this past year and a half has been the best of my life." You challenge me, support me, and make me want to be better. You have built an incredible career while somehow still making time for us. You are brilliant and driven and so damn stubborn, and I love every part of you." Adrian slid out of his chair, kneeling beside the table. Sophia's breath caught as he pulled a small velvet box from his pocket. "I know we have talked about the future in abstract terms, but I do not want abstract anymore. I want concrete plans and shared dreams and a lifetime of figuring it out together. Sophia Williams, will you marry me?" He opened the box to reveal a ring that was absolutely perfect, elegant and beautiful without being ostentatious, with a single diamond set in a delicate band that somehow captured exactly Sophia's style. "Yes," Sophia said, tears streaming down her face. "Yes, absolutely yes." The cafe erupted in applause as Adrian slipped the ring on her finger and kissed her. Sophia laughed through her tears, overwhelmed with joy and love, and the certainty that this was exactly right. They were married 6 months later in a ceremony that blended both their worlds. It was held at a beautiful estate outside the city, with about 100 guests, including Sophia's academic colleagues, Adrian's business associates, Natalie and Marcus, and the friends who had supported them through everything. Rachel was Sophia's maid of honor, and Marcus walked her down the aisle, both of them crying as he placed her hand in Adrian's. The ceremony was simple but heartfelt, with vows they had written themselves. Sophia promised to never stop challenging Adrian, to build a partnership based on mutual respect and shared dreams, and to love him through all the complications their different worlds might bring. Adrian promised to always see Sophia as an equal partner, to support her ambitions as fiercely as his own, and to create a home where both of them could thrive. The reception was a joyful celebration. Thomas, Adrian's former partner who had been so dismissive at that first gala, gave a toast acknowledging how wrong he had been about Sophia and praising her research work. Diana was notably absent, which suited everyone just fine. Professor Chen attended, beaming with pride at Sophia's accomplishments. During their first dance, Adrian pulled Sophia close and whispered, "No regrets." "Not a single one," Sophia replied, meaning it completely. They honeymooned in Europe, spending 2 weeks exploring cities and talking about their future. Sophia wanted to finish her doctorate in the next 2 years. Adrian was considering stepping back from some of his CEO responsibilities to focus on more meaningful investment work. They both wanted children eventually, but not right away. They had time. The years that followed were full and rich. Sophia completed her PhD and was offered a tenure-track position at a prestigious university. Her research on rural economic development became influential in policy circles, leading to consulting opportunities and speaking engagements. She never forgot where she came from, often telling her students about the years she spent as a professor's assistant, the sacrifices that had seemed impossible at the time but led her exactly where she needed to be. Adrian transitioned Vaughn Capital toward more socially responsible investing, using his wealth and influence to fund projects that created real community impact. He and Sophia collaborated on several initiatives, their different perspectives and expertise complementing each other perfectly. Marcus became a regular fixture in their lives, along with Natalie, who ended up marrying a nonprofit director she met through one of Sophia's research projects. Their found family expanded to include Rachel, Professor Chen, and a tight-knit group of friends who valued substance over status. 3 years into their marriage, Sophia discovered she was pregnant. They had been trying for a few months, and the positive test filled them both with excitement and terror in equal measure. Adrian was immediately overprotective, trying to bubble wrap Sophia's entire life, while Sophia insisted on maintaining her normal routine until her doctor said otherwise. Their daughter was born on a spring morning, with Marcus and Natalie in the waiting room ready to meet their niece. They named her Emma, after Sophia's mother. Holding her for the first time, Sophia felt the pieces of her life come together in perfect clarity. All the struggles, the sacrifices, the years of doubt and hard work, they had all been leading to this, a life filled with love and purpose and family. Adrian was a devoted father, surprising Sophia with how naturally he took to the role. The powerful CEO who commanded boardrooms and managed millions of dollars spent his evenings doing tummy time and reading bored books with exaggerated voices that made Emma giggle. 2 years later, they welcomed a son they named Daniel. Their family felt complete, their brownstone filled with the joyful chaos of children and love. Sophia took a brief maternity leave both times but returned to her work with renewed passion, balancing her career and motherhood with the same determination she brought to everything. Adrian cut back on travel, prioritizing time with his family. He taught his children about hard work and generosity, making sure they understood that their privilege came with responsibility. Sophia taught them about resilience and compassion, sharing stories about their grandparents and the importance of education and perseverance. On their 10th anniversary, Adrian recreated their first date at Riverside Cafe, which had become a tradition. They sat at their corner table, older and more settled, surrounded by the life they had built together. "Any regrets?" Adrian asked, echoing his question from their wedding day. Sophia looked at her husband, thinking about everything they had overcome and created together. The scared young woman who had gone to her brother's graduation party would never have believed this life was possible. But here she was, with a career she loved, a partner who respected and cherished her, and a family that filled every day with joy. "Not a single one," Sophia said, taking Adrian's hand across the table. "Not one." They drove home to their brownstone, where Marcus and Natalie were watching Emma and Daniel. The house was warm and full of laughter as the kids showed off projects they had worked on with their aunt and uncle. This was home, Sophia thought, watching her family. Not the building or the neighborhood, but the people and the love that filled every corner. That night, after the kids were asleep and their siblings had gone home, Sophia and Adrian sat on their back patio, wrapped in a blanket and watching the stars. "I have been thinking about expanding the research foundation," Sophia said. "Creating scholarships for students who have to take unconventional paths to their education. Kids who had to drop out to take care of family or who could not afford to continue. Giving them a second chance." "I think that is perfect," Adrian said, kissing the top of her head. "You always want to give back. I know what it feels like to think your dreams are over. I want to help people realize they are just on a different timeline," Sophia explained. "Then let's make it happen." "We can set up the initial funding next week," Adrian said. They sat in comfortable silence, the kind that came from years of knowing each other completely. Sophia thought about that graduation party where they had met, two people from different worlds who had found something real in the midst of all that performance and pretense. She thought about every challenge they had faced, every moment she had doubted whether they could make it work. But they had, building something stronger than either of them could have created alone. Not because they ignored their differences, but because they chose to honor both their worlds, creating a new space where they both belonged. "I love you," Sophia said, simple words that carried the weight of everything they had built together. "I love you too," Adrian replied, holding her closer. "Always." And as they sat there under the stars, surrounded by the life they had created through love and compromise and unwavering commitment. Sophia knew with absolute certainty that this was her happy ending. Not because everything was perfect, but because even when things were hard, they faced them together. And that made all the difference.